Welcome to Make Your Money Matter with Brad Barrett, the show that aims to change the way you think about wealth management. Brad is a certified financial advisor, established radio host, and author of Retire Right. He is a managing director and partner at One Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm managing over $4 billion for clients across the nation. Brad and his team are dedicated to helping clients protect and preserve their assets so they can reach their investment and retirement goals. And now, your host of Make Your Money Matter, Brad Barrett.
Welcome to Make Your Money Matter. I'm your host, Brad Barrett. I'm a managing director and partner here at One Capital Management, and I'm here each and every week to help you have a better relationship with your money because after all, your money matters. And today on the show, I want to tackle something that has been on my mind and I think with my clients on their minds probably over the past 5 or 10 years in particular. Now, you've noticed every week I've been talking about things that relate to the past 3 years for obvious reasons. But I want to shift this week and I want to talk about some things that, believe it or not, have not been shown through the media or talked about when it comes to the 1%, as you've heard that before, or the wealthy and millionaires. And I want to share some facts with you that I think we all kind of glance over sometimes. And I did some studying on this, and to be honest, I was shocked, and I want to share that with you. Now also, we're going to cover how much money weighs on all of us as humans, both matter of fact as well as in theory. All right, let's get into it. Okay, first, let's talk about money. Obviously, our show is called Make Your Money Matter, so let's talk about money. Actually, when I say money, I'm talking about greenbacks, as my grandfather calls them. I know many of us don't use much of it anymore. It's mostly through credit cards or debit cards or Apple Pay this or whatever. You know, I still get stares at the store because I frequently pay with cash. But my grandfather always told me to always have $1 in your pocket. You never know when you might need it or when you might need to bless someone maybe with who is in need or someone like that. So for me, I'm always carrying some sort of denomination, whether it's a 5, a 10, a 20. I usually have it in my pocket, even though the majority of the time I'm using either, like I said, Apple Pay or debit card or credit card. But let me step back for a second and give you some facts about our currency. This is more for fun, but it actually will strike you as pretty interesting, I think. There's a company called Crane & Company, which is a Massachusetts-based company. Now, they've been providing the U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Printing with paper for U.S. currency since, get this, 1879. You want to talk about monopoly? I mean, they've been doing this for over 100 years. The Federal Reserve notes, what you and I both know as our dollar bills, our 5s, our 10s, our 20s, hundreds. The Federal Reserve notes are a blend of 25% linen and 75% cotton. Now, I don't know about you, but I did not realize there was a combination of cotton and linen that made up our dollars. It also has tiny red and blue synthetic fibers of really various lengths that are evenly distributed throughout the paper, which also makes it harder for it to be counterfeit. But as many of you know, I like talking about the psychology of money and how money plays with our heart and with our mind. And I've said many times that money has a place in our wallets and in our banks, but not necessarily in our hearts. And so as we talk about currency, we talk about the weight of currencies I just mentioned within our lives, the physical weight of currency, no matter the denomination, the physical weight of currency weighs approximately 1 gram. Now, a little quick stat for you. There are about 454 grams in 1 pound, which means there are $450 bills, 450 particular dollar bills in 1 pound of currency. Now, even better, get this. A stack of currency 1 mile high would contain more than 14.5 million dollar bills. Fun facts that you may never use, but you might have fun with. Let's just put it that way. Now, this has a lot to do with inflation. Think about that. It has a lot to do with the conversation of foreign investment and the US dollar backing. And it's estimated that between 1/2 to 2/3 of the value of all US currency in circulation is outside the US. Interesting take. When you look at conversations we all have about the dollar being the currency of the world and foreign investment, it still holds a very strong place, as you can see from those stats. So why am I coming at you this week with all these facts? Well, number one, I thought, again, some of these facts were relevant and interesting and maybe just fun, but I want to circle back to the weight. Approximately one banknote, whether it's a $1 bill, $5 bill, $10 bill, $100 bill, doesn't matter, weighs 1 gram. Now, there was a quote that I had brought up on the show last week or week before from Ralph Waldo Emerson, where he said, money often costs too much. Now really think about that. It's kind of an interesting question, right? What do we do because of money? Or said differently, what do we do for money? How much does it cost us? By the way, cost has nothing to do with the actual currency itself, but it also does at the same time, right? Because we're doing whatever we are doing for the money to take care of our family, to take care of our loved ones. And so when we talk about that, we often get in this mindset of keeping up with the Joneses. The whole, I have to have what the next person has. I've called it the Kardashian effect. Whether it's right or wrong is irrelevant because I've done things, let's say for junior achievement through my old high school, through our youth programs at our church. And when talking, ironically, to 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, it's like almost everyone comes out of high school thinking they're rich or something. And for those of you right now with kids that are teenagers, and I know finance is a weird subject sometimes, almost taboo for a lot of families, but I would urge you to make sure that you talk about the weight of money, making sure that money can be worked for and in your wallet, but making sure it's not in your heart. And what I mean by that is make sure it doesn't grip your heart. It doesn't take hold of your identity, that it doesn't take hold of your worth. You notice these words that I'm using, we talk about worth and wealthiness and all that kind of stuff as if it's a currency or a dollar amount. And the reality is it's not who we are. If you had $0, who would you be as a person? We all get wrapped up. By the way, I'm not immune to this. This is very a humanistic conversation with regards to our society nowadays. Everyone's like, how do these celebs make money? And we want to be like that. But really, what would you have to give up to do that? What does it cost you to do that? And with that, I want to share some facts that I think you might find pretty interesting. And the first thing I'll say, and going into this for a second, to be clear about the wealthy, the 1%, the millionaires, is many times in our life, the things that we care about most, money cannot buy. Love, health, relationships, purity, things like that. Money can't buy that stuff. So it's really important to, when we talk about the weight of money, my whole bridge there, before I get into some of these stats I wanted to bring up, is why does something that weighs so little weigh so heavy on many of us? Think about that for a second. Now, what I want to share with some stats that I pulled together when it comes to some facts around the wealthy, as we kind of look over the fence and kind of have that whole conversation, I want to share this too, is remember this, comparison is the thief of joy. I heard a pastor tell it to me a long time ago, and I always stuck with me, right? Comparing yourself wherever you are, it doesn't matter where you are watching or listening to me right now, comparing yourself to someone else who you think has something that you don't have, whether that's more or less, it's more that you don't have it, it's the thief of joy. You find your own identity with who you are and really dig in on that. That, my friends, is wealth. As society calls wealthy, let's go through some stats that I think at the end of this here in a couple minutes, you're gonna find pretty interesting. Now, this came from a Prager University article I found, and again, found it fascinating. So I'm gonna hit you with some more facts here, but not necessarily about currency, but dovetailing off of the weight of currency and putting some of those things in perspective. The questions I want to ask before I go through this little segment here is when we talk about worth, as I just stated, and we look at someone who's worth a lot, we kind of say, okay, they're worth whatever amount, and we consider them wealthy. We kind of think, do wealthy people just inherit all their money? The answer is no. You'll find out. Okay, are they just lucky? The answer is also no. We'll go through that as well. So check this out. There are almost 22 million millionaires in the United States today. By the way, that is the most in US history. And just to put it in context for a second, this number has doubled in just the last 4 years. But the number of people living paycheck to paycheck is also on the rise, with 39% of Americans unable to cover $1,000 emergency with cash. Now, with this said, what I want to go through here is some questions around what most people perceive in general of wealthy individuals and tying it back to you. Because you might call me crazy, but I've been in this business for 2 decades now. What I'll share is this. What someone would deem as a high net worth to me has very little to do with money. I'm gonna go get on a soapbox here for a second, but bear with me. When you look around you right now, wherever you are, you have loved ones who care for you. You have people who you care for, and you've put a roof over your head and their head. You have food on the table. You're healthy and able to get up and actually have a job. And to others around the world, we are very, very fortunate and very very wealthy. And by wealthy, you notice those things I mentioned have very little to do with actual money or currency.
Stay connected. Get frequent updates on the show. Follow Brad Barrett and Make Your Money Matter on most social media platforms. And catch full episodes of Make Your Money Matter streaming now on our YouTube channel. To schedule your no-obligation appointment, go to onecapital.com or call 805-410-5454.
In discussing these facts, there's a guy named Chris Hogan, and he and his research team surveyed and interviewed over 10,000 millionaires. And what he said was this, and I quote, "We learned a lot about them. What we found out surprised me, and I suspect will also surprise you too." So I want to share this article with you. And now there's a couple myths I think that are out there that it's important to talk about. This is what Chris Hogan was saying, and we'll go through it here. So myth number one was wealthy people inherited all of their money. Here's what he found out. The truth is, he found out 79% of millionaires received zero inheritance. That's right, zip from mom and dad. They earned it on their own. 79% of them did. The myth number two was wealthy people are lucky. Now, this is the one that I think many people believe, especially outside the United States. We're lucky, I think all of us can believe this, we're lucky to be born in such a beautiful country. I will give us that 100%. But in reality, 76% of millionaires say that nothing extraordinary happened to enhance their wealth, meaning like no lotteries were won, no stock market killing it, none of that kind of stuff, right? It was discipline and hard work were the key factors. And I've been around many wealthy people in terms of currency, organized organizations who we would deem wealthy. And I've been around many of those, and I've been around many hardworking individuals who are bringing in more than they're spending. And mind you, it's all relative. I've met plenty of people making, let's say, $1 million a year, and they're spending $1.5 million a year. And I met plenty of people who are making $100,000 a year who are spending $80,000, and they are actually more rich if you want to look at it that way. So you got to look at it from both the cash inflow side as well as maybe a net worth, and then also from a self-worth. And as for the luck, the luckiest thing in most of their lives was being born in or becoming a citizen of the United States, in my opinion. So yes, there is luck in that, but there was nothing else extraordinary. Now, there was another myth, myth number three, that he went through, that wealthy people have prestigious private school educations. Wrong again. So get this, 62% of millionaires went to public state schools. So you don't have to go to some Ivy League school to do well. I think a lot of us people think that sometimes, you know, and not that I'm saying that's wrong or those schools are bad, but you know, look at the overwhelming majority of people didn't go to Ivy League, didn't go to these prestigious schools thinking they have to be successful that way. Myth number four was this: wealthy people have high paying jobs. As I just mentioned, that's not true at all. 1/3 of millionaires never had, this stat astounded me. I think it'll astound you too. 1/3 of millionaires never had a 6-figure household income in a single working year. I'm not making this up. This is right from their research. And I want to reiterate this myth very loud and clear, because that's really important for anyone out there watching or listening right now. They're probably thinking, how is this possible? Very simple. As I say often, spend less than you make. It does not get more simple than that. We ourselves make things overly complicated. Now, I know, again, that concept might seem so simplistic or maybe even too simplistic, but in reality, it's what works. Now, it's hard for us, especially those who live in high-priced states like here in California, maybe New York, Hawaii, wherever you're watching right now. But what I want to attack today is the mindset that we need to earn more or we're just unlucky. So get this again, more than 1/3 of the millionaire surveys never had a 6-figure paying job. They just managed what they brought in. If you just pause there for a second and just look inwardly and ask yourself honestly, if you truly want financial freedom, look inward and manage what you got. You know, one of the previous episodes I mentioned on the Make Your Money Matter show was the rules of money. You can go watch that episode, and I think it's a really strong one because it goes into this even more in depth. Some really good pragmatic, there was 10 of them, pragmatic ways to look at the money you're bringing in so you can manage your own household. Now, there was one key thing that separates the haves from the have-nots in this survey. It's the attitude. You notice that? It's the attitude and the discipline of millionaires. Basically, how they look at money. They have learned to control it and not let it control them. You want money to work for you versus you always working for it, right? That's everyone's dream for the most part with money, right? Money, as I've said before, is a great employee, but a terrible boss. You want to make sure money does what you want it to do and not have it tell you what it wants you to do. I think the way we view money in this society, in our world, is often dictated by what we are reading or seeing or hearing every day. It's almost subliminal. We don't even realize it sometimes, but it matters. So if I'm speaking to someone today, just take it to heart, think on it, pray on it, meditate on it, whatever it is you're doing, but go through it. Be honest and candid with yourselves. If you want to achieve financial security, number one, define what that means for you. And then with the facts I brought up today is to maybe look and change your mindset. The sooner the better. You have to start with the belief that it's possible for you to become a millionaire. Now, I'm of the belief too, just to be clear, that we want to be careful attaching a specific number or something to our goals in life rather than it just becoming a millionaire, right? I would rather you say, I want to become financially free. It's really simple when you change your mindset of living within your means. And it's hard, I know, because it's not just, if you're married, it's also a conversation you have to have with your spouse. If you have a family, you have to kind of look at everyone who's involved in this. So it's not just you, I get it. You have kids, they want to do things, there's sports, there's travel. There's a lot of stuff going on. Society tells us that we need to spend. And that's okay to an extent. I'm not saying that's not the right thing to do, but making sure that we're managing our debt appropriately, making sure we're paying off that debt if we have it, it's changing our mindset. We all have to take the responsibility for where we are financially right now. Now, some of you, that might be a gut check. No matter where you stand right now, you could always fix it. I might be talking to someone who's, maybe you're 10 years into retirement, maybe you're 10 years in the workforce. Doesn't really matter, right? The reality is we can change our mindset. Again, I want to share that sometimes comparison is the thief of joy. And I think money, whether we like it or not, plays a heavy role in our emotions and how we tend to look at life. Okay, it's time for your questions. If you have a question or topic you'd like me to address, you can leave a comment or a question in the comment section. Or if it's something you want to talk more one-on-one, just go to the About page on this channel and send us an email. We will always keep the questions I read here anonymous. You don't have to worry about your name being shared, but we would love to hear from you. So the question that came in this week had a lot to do with stress and anxiety, believe it or not, around money. And the question was specifically, I'm having a lot of stress, Brad, around money and the things that you're saying I want to do, but I'm not sure that I can do. So part of that was a statement, part of that was a question, and I want to address it this way. I think number one, as I share often, is find counsel. Find an advisor that you can trust and find the good ones. And I want to share this very openly that you don't need to have money necessarily to have a good financial advisor. You want to find someone who's a planner who can help you create wealth. You don't have to do this alone. Pragmatically speaking, I would say this: if you're looking at, your situation, whatever it might be, I said this often, but I'm pretty sure it came out a couple months ago. I brought up, real quick ways to kind of look at it. And I would start this way. And this might be, for you, it might not be, but I'm going to share it, right? Print out your bank statement, take a look at it, highlight everything on that bank statement that you would qualify as a want. It's different than a need, right? Qualified as a want. Take that total amount you spent on wants and next month reduce the wants category by 25%. Take that 25%, look at investments, look at paying down debt, look at savings. You'll find that month over month, you keep doing that, it will add up. I mean, just like compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, so is reducing your debt, so is, creating spread in your income. So those are the kind of the two answers I would make is one, I think finding someone to talk to about it and kind of help you build wealth or help you get out of any financial situation you're in. And then secondarily, I would say take those steps, do it yourself, see if you can do it, stick to it. And again, what I'll say is don't have the whole motivation thing, right? You're hot and ready to go, 9 a.m., had the coffee. You want to have the 3 o'clock mentality where it's like, you got to create some systems for you. That's why I share these rules of thumb to create systems for yourself. So hopefully that helps. Again, if you have a question or comment you would like me to read here, you can leave it in the comments section or you can email us in the About page on our channel. But before we go, if you found anything helpful today and want to learn more, you can visit us at our website at onecapital.com. You can also call or text us. We want to help. There's no pressure here. We don't treat people like a number. We value our relationships. It's the lifeblood of what we do here. So click, call, or text us today. And if you're not following us on social media, you should be. You can follow us at Make Your Money Matter. We're sharing great information on all of our social media platforms. And I often say, if you enjoy the show, share with someone you like. And if you don't like it, I guess share with someone you don't like. But until next week, make sure to make your money matter.
The information in this show is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration a listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a final decision.